The massive alien ship cut through Earth's clouds like a silver knife, its hull gleaming with technologies that human scientists could barely understand. Inside the command bridge, Ambassador Veltar pressed his crystalline hands against the viewing window and watched the small blue planet grow larger below them. His four eyes studied the surface with the bored expression of someone who had seen the same scene dozens of times before. "Status report, Commander," Veltar said, without turning from the window. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never been told no. Commander Zenith looked up from his scanning station, his scaled face showing mild amusement. "The same as yesterday, Ambassador. No plasma weapons detected. No energy shields. No gravity drives. Their most advanced military technology appears to be metal projectiles fired from chemical explosives." He paused to check another reading. "They are still using rockets that burn liquid fuel to reach their own moon. Quite primitive." The other bridge officers shared quiet laughs at this information. In their experience, any species still using chemical propulsion was at least 300 years behind Concordat technology. Such civilizations usually surrendered within hours of first contact, overwhelmed by the obvious superiority of their visitors. "Any sign of resistance preparation?" asked Veltar, though he already knew the answer. Primitive species never prepared for first contact. They were always too shocked by the reality of alien life to think clearly. "None whatsoever," replied Zenith. "Their military forces appear to be scattered across the planet in small groups. No unified command structure, no coordinated response. They are broadcasting what they call peaceful intentions on multiple frequencies, but their actions suggest they have no idea what they are dealing with." Veltar finally turned from the window, his crystalline features catching the light from the bridge displays. "Excellent. Begin standard intimidation formation. 3 ships in atmospheric hover over their major population centers. Make sure their primitive sensors can detect our weapon systems charging. I want them properly frightened before we land, far below on Earth's surface." Captain Jiwon Kim watched the alien formation through the reinforced windows of the Seoul Defense Command Center. The underground facility had been built 50 years earlier during the height of human conflict. Designed to survive nuclear warfare between Earth's nations, it served as humanity's primary coordination center for something far more dangerous than nuclear war. "Admiral Park, the alien vessels are taking position exactly as predicted," Kim reported to the older man standing beside him. Admiral Minho Park had spent 30 years studying warfare patterns, first between human nations and later in preparation for exactly this scenario. His weathered face showed no surprise at the alien tactics. "Of course they are," Park replied. Calmly, Dr. Lee's analysis was correct. They are following the same intimidation pattern they have used on 14 other species. 3 ships positioned to threaten major population centers. Weapons powered but not yet fired. Landing party dispatched to make demands. Dr. Yoonji Lee looked up from her analysis station, her fingers still moving across the keyboard as she tracked the alien movements. As Earth's lead expert on alien behavior patterns, she had spent years studying intercepted Concordat communications from their previous conquests. The pattern was always the same. "They will demand immediate surrender," she said quietly. "I don't know. Negotiation? No compromise. They will give us perhaps 24 hours to accept their terms before beginning orbital bombardment of our cities. It is how they have conquered every other species they have encountered." Captain Kim felt his jaw tighten. "And if we refuse, then they will demonstrate their power by destroying one of our major cities," Dr. Lee replied. "Usually they choose the one with the largest population to maximize the psychological impact. After that, most species surrender immediately." Admiral Park walked to the main display screen, which showed tactical positions of forces across the globe. To an outside observer, it might look like Earth's military was in complete disarray. Army units were scattered across continents, naval forces were dispersed across the oceans, and Air Force squadrons seemed to be conducting routine training exercises. But Park knew better. Every unit was exactly where it needed to be. "Have all stations confirmed receipt of Damocles' protocol?" he asked. "Yes, sir," replied Kim. "All orbital platforms report ready status. Mountain installations are powered and targeted. Submarine wolf packs are in position. Every railgun battery from Seoul to Stockholm is locked onto alien vessel coordinates. Dr. Lee paused in her work to look at the two military officers. Admiral, are you certain this will work? Their shields have deflected every energy weapon ever used against them. Their hull armor has never been penetrated by any known force. Park smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. Doctor, that is because every species they have fought developed energy weapons as their primary military technology. Plasma cannons, particle beams, force projectors, all very advanced, all very impressive, and all completely useless against an enemy who has spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of throwing rocks very, very fast. The command center fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. Outside, the alien landing craft was descending toward the prepared diplomatic site in Geneva, carrying ambassadors who expected another easy victory over a primitive species. They were about to learn why humanity had never needed energy weapons to kill each other. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the Geneva Convention Center as Ambassador Veltar prepared to show these primitive humans exactly what they were dealing with. His crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls as he walked to the center of the great hall. Behind him, 6 Concordat soldiers stood at attention, their advanced weapons clearly visible in their energy shields, humming with barely contained power. President Yoon Ho Han sat at the curved table with his advisors, watching the alien ambassador. With careful eyes, the human delegation had arrived early, each member carrying simple folders and basic recording devices. To the aliens, they looked exactly like what they expected from a primitive species: helpless, unprepared, easy to intimidate. Veltar raised one crystalline hand, and suddenly a metal chair began floating in the air without any visible support. The chair spun slowly, defying gravity as if it weighed nothing at all. Several human delegates gasped in surprise, exactly the reaction the ambassador had hoped for. "Observe the power of true technology," Veltar announced, his voice carrying easily through the hall. The floating chair was joined by a table, then a potted plant, then several books. Soon a dozen objects hung in the air around the alien ambassador like planets orbiting. A sun, with another gesture, his weathered face showing nothing but polite interest. Beside him, Colonel Soyoung Nam wrote steadily in her notebook, recording every detail of the alien technology demonstration. To the aliens, she looked like a simple secretary taking notes. In reality, she was one of Earth's most brilliant tactical analysts. Already calculating weaknesses in everything she observed, Veltar was not finished with his show. He pointed at a thick steel beam that had been prepared for this demonstration. A bright blue energy beam shot from his finger, cutting through the metal like it was soft butter. The beam carved intricate patterns in the steel, creating shapes that would have taken human tools hours to produce. "Your strongest metals are like paper to us," the ambassador declared. "Your weapons cannot harm us. Your defenses cannot stop us." A holographic display suddenly appeared above the assembly hall, showing a 3-dimensional map of local space. Dozens of star systems glowed with different colors, each one marked with Concordat symbols. 14 species, Veltar continued, gesturing at the hologram. 14 civilizations that thought they could resist the Concordat. All now serve willingly under our guidance, enjoying peace and prosperity they could never have achieved alone. Dr. Yoonji Lee, sitting with the scientific advisors, studied the holographic display with professional interest. Each conquered system was marked with detailed information about population, resources, and military capability. The pattern was always the same. The Concordat would arrive, demonstrate their superior technology, make their demands, and within days, the target species would surrender. President Han leaned forward slightly. "Ambassador, we are impressed by your technological achievements. However, Earth's people value their independence highly. Perhaps we could discuss a partnership of equals rather than a relationship of master and servant."
The temperature in the bed.
Room seemed to drop several degrees. Veltar's 4 eyes focused on the human president with the intensity of laser beams. Behind him, the Concordat soldiers stepped closer, their hands moving to their weapons. "I think you misunderstand the situation," Veltar said, his voice now cold as winter steel. "This is not a negotiation between equals. This is an announcement of your new status within the Concordat Empire. You will submit to our authority, accept our guidance, and serve our greater purpose. This is not a request." Admiral Minho Park, who had remained silent throughout the demonstration, finally spoke. "And if we choose to decline your generous offer, Veltar's crystalline features seem to sharpen into cutting edges. Then you will learn why the Concordat has never failed to integrate a new species into our empire. We have refined the process over many centuries. First comes the demonstration of power, then comes the offer of peaceful submission. Finally, if necessary, comes the lesson and consequences." The alien ambassador activated a communication device on his wrist. "Commander Zenith, please assume intimidation formation over the major population centers. Show these primitives what defiance will cost them." Through the windows of the convention center, the humans could see 3 massive alien warships moving into position high above the city. Their hulls gleamed with advanced armor and weapon systems that could level entire cities in minutes. Similar reports began coming in from around the world as the aliens positioned their ships over New York and London. President Han remained calm despite the obvious threat hanging over millions of his people. "We understand your position, Ambassador. We request 24 hours to consult with Earth's governments and consider our response." Veltar's laugh sounded like breaking glass. "How amusing. Very well, primitive ones. You have 24 of your hours to contemplate the futility of resistance. Use the time to prepare your surrender. It will save many lives." As the alien delegation filed out of the hall, General Choi waited until they were completely gone before activating his encrypted communication device. His voice was steady and professional as he spoke the words that would change everything. "All stations. This is Phoenix Command. Execute Damocles Protocol immediately. The children are about to learn why humanity stopped fighting each other. Time to show our guests what happens when you threaten Earth's family." The first light of dawn painted the sky in soft colors over Seoul, but the massive alien ship hanging above the city cast a dark shadow across millions of homes. Inside the Concordat cruiser, Commander Zenith sipped his morning nutrition drink and watched the primitive planet below with amused satisfaction. The humans were scurrying around like insects, their simple aircraft buzzing through the sky in what looked like complete panic. "Status report," he called across the bridge to his communications officer. "The primitives are broadcasting on all frequencies," the officer replied with a laugh. "Their military units are moving around randomly. Some of their flying machines are actually trying to get close enough to scan us. It is quite entertaining." Zenith nodded and activated his long-range sensors. The human military response was exactly what he expected from a species that still used chemical rockets. Their largest warships were made of simple metal and carried weapons that threw metal bullets. Their aircraft moved slowly compared to Concordat fighters. Everything about their technology was at least 3 centuries behind. "They are mobilizing everything they have," he reported to Ambassador Veltar through the communication system. "Ground forces, naval vessels, atmospheric craft. They appear to be preparing for some kind of coordinated attack." How delightfully futile. Far below the surface of the Korean mountains, Colonel Soyang Nam stood in a command center that did not officially exist. The facility had been carved from solid rock 50 years earlier, disguised as a mining operation and hidden from every type of sensor the humans could imagine. Round her, dozens of technicians worked at control stations that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. "Major Kim. Status report on the orbital systems," she called across the command center. Major Hyun-woo Kim looked up from his station, his face lit by the glow of multiple screens. "All platforms report full readiness. Tungsten rod magazines are loaded and targeted. Magnetic acceleration systems are charged to maximum power. We have clear firing solutions on all 3 alien vessels." Colonel Nam nodded and turned to another. "Station Captain Su. What is the status of our naval assets?" Captain Yuna Su spoke without looking away from her screens. "Submarine wolf packs are in position in the Pacific Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. All missile systems are armed and ready. Kinetic penetrator warheads are locked onto target coordinates. The aliens have no idea we are there. The colonel walked to the main tactical display, which showed a three-dimensional map of Earth with thousands of small symbols representing military units across the planet. To anyone watching, it would look like chaos. Army divisions were scattered. Across continents, naval fleets were spread across the oceans. An Air Force squadron seemed to be flying random patrol patterns. But Colonel Nam knew better. Every unit was exactly where it needed to be for Operation Damocles. Railgun batteries report ready status, announced another technician. All mountain installations are powered and targeted. Magnetic acceleration systems are operating at full capacity. High above the Earth, Commander Zenith was beginning to feel slightly less amused. The human military movements were starting to look less random and more coordinated. Their communication frequencies were filled with coded messages that his translation systems could not break. Most concerning of all, his sensors were detecting strange energy readings from locations all over the planet. "Weapons officer, are you detecting any threat to our vessels?" he asked. The weapons officer checked his displays twice before answering. "No, sir. I am detecting some unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface, but nothing that could possibly threaten our shields or armor. The humans appear to be powering up some kind of electrical systems, but they are far too primitive to be dangerous." In the hidden command center, Colonel Name received a secure communication from General Choi. The time had come. "All stations, this is Mountain Command," she announced across the secure network. "Execute Operation Damocles. Show our visitors what happens when physics meets engineering. Fire at will." The first tungsten rod left its orbital platform at 17,000 meters per second. The metal cylinder, no larger than a telephone pole, had been accelerated by magnetic fields until it carried the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon. It struck the alien cruiser above Seoul with the force of a meteor. The Concordat shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and plasma beams, were completely useless against simple metal moving at hypersonic speed. The tungsten rod punched through the shield like it was made of paper, then through the alien hull like it was made of cardboard. Commander Zenith watched in shock as his bridge exploded around him. "Impossible." He screamed over the alarms. "Those are just kinetic projectiles." "How are they penetrating our defenses?" The answer came in. The form of 6 more tungsten rods, each one striking a different section of his ship. The cruiser's advanced armor, designed to withstand the most powerful energy weapons in the galaxy, crumpled like tinfoil under the impact of simple metal moving very fast. Similar scenes played out above New York and London as the other Concordat. Vessels discovered that their technological superiority meant nothing against the basic laws of physics. Energy shields could deflect plasma and lasers, but they could not stop mass multiplied by velocity squared. From hidden positions around the world, railgun batteries opened fire. Magnetic acceleration systems that had been disguised as power. Transmission lines hurled metal projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The aliens had never seen weapons like these because no other species had ever needed to build them. Submarine-launched missiles broke the surface of the oceans in coordinated swarms. Their kinetic penetrator warheads designed not for explosive damage but for pure impact force. The alien ships caught completely off guard, had no defense against weapons that used the most basic principles of physics as their primary killing mechanism. In less than 6 minutes, 2 of the 3 Concordat cruisers were dead in space, their hulls cracked open like eggs. The third ship, damaged but still functional, was desperately trying to escape Earth's gravity. When the second wave of attacks began, the humans had been preparing for this day for 50 years. They were just getting started. The room that had once hosted peaceful diplomatic meetings now felt like a prison cell. Ambassador Veltar sat slumped in his chair, his normally bright crystalline body now dull and gray like old glass. Around the table, 3 other Concordat officers stared at their hands, unable to believe what had happened to their mighty fleet. The neural dampening fields humming in the walls made it impossible for them to access their natural energy abilities. General Doyan Choi entered the room, carrying nothing but a simple tablet computer. His military uniform was plain, with only small rank badges to show his position. He looked like any human soldier, nothing special or threatening. Behind him walked Dr. Soman Park, a small woman wearing glasses and carrying a thick folder of papers. She looked more like a university teacher than a military expert. "I imagine you have questions," General Choi said calmly as he sat down across from the alien prisoners. 6 hours ago, you commanded the most powerful fleet in this part of the galaxy. Now 60% of your ships are floating scrap metal, and you are sitting in a human prison cell. You probably want to know how this happened. Commander Zenith raised his scaled head and stared at the human general with hatred in his 4 eyes. Your weapons should not exist. No species we have encountered has ever developed such primitive yet effective technology. How did you penetrate our shields with simple metal projectiles? Dr. Park smiled gently and activated the tablet computer. The screen lit up with images of human soldiers from thousands of years ago, carrying bronze swords and wooden shields. The answer to your question begins here, Commander. This is how human warfare started. Bronze weapons, leather armor, and the simple goal of killing the enemy before he killed you. The images on the screen changed, showing battles from different periods of human history. Ancient armies with iron weapons gave way to medieval knights in steel armor. Then came soldiers with gunpowder weapons, firing metal balls from crude cannons. Every species the Concordat has conquered developed energy weapons early in their history, Dr. Park continued. They learned to manipulate plasma, build force fields, and create particle beams. Very advanced technology. Very impressive. But humans took a different path. Ambassador Veltar found his voice at last. Your species never developed energy weapons? General Choi laughed, but it was not a pleasant sound. We developed them. We have plasma cannons, particle beams, and force projectors. But we found something interesting. When your enemy is protected by the same physics that protect you, those weapons become less useful. So we kept working on something simpler. Tablet screen now showed World War I, with soldiers firing rifles from muddy trenches. Then World War II, with tanks rolling across battlefields and aircraft fighting in the sky. The weapons grew more complex, but they all shared the same basic principle: metal objects thrown at high speed to kill the enemy. Humans have been at war with each other for our entire recorded history, Dr. Park explained. Not just small conflicts, but massive wars involving millions of soldiers and lasting for years. We have fought over land, resources, ideas, religion, and sometimes just because we did not like each other. Commander Zenith shook his head in confusion. But your species survived. How is this possible if you were constantly destroying each other? Because we got very good at it, General Choi replied. Every war taught us new ways to kill more efficiently. Every battle showed us weaknesses in our defenses. Every conflict pushed us to build better weapons, better armor, better tactics. The tablet now showed modern human military technology. Nuclear submarines hidden beneath the oceans, stealth aircraft invisible to radar, orbital platforms disguised as communication satellites, railgun systems built into mountains and powered by civilian electrical grids. When the Concordat conquered other species, those species had maybe a few hundred years of military experience, Dr. Park said. Humans have 10,000 years of continuous warfare evolution. Every weapon system you encountered today was originally designed for killing other humans. The alien officers stared at the images in horror. The tablet showed missile systems that could strike targets on the other side of the planet, artillery that could level entire cities, nuclear weapons powerful enough to destroy continents. Your energy shields work very well against plasma weapons and particle beams, General Choi continued. But they are useless against kinetic energy. A tungsten rod moving at 17,000 meters per second does not care about your force fields. It simply punches through them using basic physics. Ambassador Veltar spoke in a whisper. Your entire civilization is built around warfare. No, Dr. Park replied. Our civilization is built around survival. Warfare is just how we ensure that survival. Every human child learns that peace is maintained through the promise of swift and overwhelming retaliation. Every human nation maintains the ability to destroy all others, and they know it. General Choi leaned forward. The only reason humans have not wiped ourselves out is because we are too smart to give anyone a decisive advantage. We learned that the best way to prevent war is to make it too expensive for anyone to start. Commander Zenith asked the question they were all thinking. How many of your weapon systems have we not seen yet? Dr. Park consulted her papers. You have experienced our basic orbital kinetic platforms, some submarine launch systems, and a few railgun installations. I would estimate you have seen about 12% of our actual military capability. The silence that followed was complete. The most advanced military force in the galaxy had just learned they were facing an enemy that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war, and the humans were just getting started. The Earth Embassy. Ship moved slowly through space toward the massive alien station, its hull reflecting the light of distant stars. The ship looked different from other vessels in the galaxy, where alien ships were covered with smooth curves and glowing energy. Fields, the human ship was all straight lines and functional design. Every part of it had been built for a purpose, with no decoration or unnecessary features. Ambassador Minji Yoon pressed her face against the observation window, watching the Galactic Council station grow larger as they approached. The alien structure was enormous, big enough to hold 1 million people, with docking ports for hundreds of different ship designs. It looked like a small city floating in space, with lights twinkling from thousands of windows. First time seeing it? Asked Admiral Taiwan Lee as he joined her at the window. The older man had commanded Earth's space forces during the war 6 months ago, and now he was helping to negotiate the peace. It is beautiful, Minji, replied softly. Hard to believe that 6 months ago, the people who built this were trying to conquer Earth, Admiral Lee nodded. The Concordat learned a hard lesson about underestimating humans. Now they are being very careful to treat us with respect. Behind them, the ship's communication officer looked up from his station. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the station. They want to know if we are carrying any kinetic weapons. The Admiral smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Tell them that everything humans carry can be a kinetic weapon if we need it to be. We're coming in peace, but we are not coming defenseless. The docking process took much longer than normal. 3 Concordat warships escorted the human vessel to its assigned port, staying far enough away to avoid any accidents, but close enough to respond if something went wrong. The alien crews were nervous, and everyone knew it. Inside the Great Council chamber, representatives from 47 different species waited to meet the humans. Some looked curious, others seemed afraid, and a few appeared angry. The humans had changed everything in the galaxy, and not everyone was happy about it. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering. The ceiling was transparent, showing the stars outside, and the walls were covered with translation screens that could display any language in the galaxy. Seats were arranged in a great circle, each species having their own section designed for their specific needs. Ambassador Yoon entered the chamber wearing a simple black suit with no decorations except a small Earth flag pin. Like any human diplomat, nothing special or threatening. But every alien in the room knew that she represented the most dangerous military force any of them had ever encountered. Honored representatives, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's sound system. Earth comes before this council seeking friendship and cooperation with all peaceful species. We have no desire for conquest or domination. We wish only to trade, learn, and grow alongside our galactic neighbors. A representative from the Hellion cluster raised a tentacled arm. Ambassador Yoon, your species has demonstrated military capabilities that have caused great concern among our member worlds. How can we trust a species that has weaponized basic physics? Mingi considered the question carefully. The same way you would trust any dangerous animal, Counselor. We are dangerous when threatened, but we have no interest in hurting anyone who leaves us alone. Human civilization learned long ago that the best way to keep peace is to make war too costly for anyone to consider. The former Concordat representative, a much smaller and more humble figure than the previous ambassador, spoke next. The human military doctrine appears to be based on the threat of total destruction. Is this accurate? Admiral Lee answered this question. It's partially correct, but you are missing the important point. Humans do not want to destroy anyone. We want to explore, trade, learn, and build better lives for our children. Our weapons exist to make sure these activities can continue without interference. A representative from a species called the Vorthok stood up. But Ambassador, your weapons are so primitive. How can simple metal projectiles be more effective than our advanced energy weapons? Because Minji replied, when you spend 10,000 years fighting wars against your own species, you learn that the simplest solutions are often the most effective. Energy can be deflected, absorbed, or redirected. But mass times velocity equals impact, and physics does not care about your force fields. The session continued for hours, with aliens asking careful questions about human intentions and capabilities. Gradually, a new understanding began to emerge. Earth had no interest in conquering other worlds or enslaving other species. They simply wanted to be left alone to pursue their own development while engaging in peaceful trade. But the aliens also learned that humans were not helpless victims. They were apex predators who had learned to cooperate with each other only. After proving they could destroy each other completely, as the formal session ended, Ambassador Yoon delivered her final statement. The galaxy now has a choice. Can treat Earth as a partner, working together for mutual benefit and shared prosperity. Or you can treat us as a threat, in which case we will respond as humans always have two existential dangers. The choice is yours. The vote to admit Earth as a full member of the Galactic Council was unanimous. Not because the aliens loved humans, but because they understood that attacking Earth would be the last mistake any species would ever make. Within days of the vote, 17 previously unknown species emerged from hiding in remote star systems, requesting Earth's protection from various galactic threats. Humanity had accidentally become the galaxy's peacekeepers, not through conquest, but through the simple promise that they would defend themselves and their allies with overwhelming force. The irony was perfect. The species that had perfected the art of war had finally brought peace to the stars,